What up? What up? What's going on, everybody? What's up? What the business is? Give me a second, man. I am Facebook won't let me post the merch link to for the clothing line. They got a problem with that link, it seems. It's all good. But before I get started though, I need to have a little delay anyway. Yeah, man, we're gonna talk about we're gonna talk about some slave sales, the 1838 Jesuit slave sale. So just bear with me a moment and we're gonna get into that. We're gonna get directly into that. But while y'all waiting, like the show, share the show, tell a friend, tell a friend. Sean is live. I am live. Alright, ladies and gentlemen, the books is in. The books are in. Yep. They in. They're here. ETM Hotel Rennie Sean, welcome in peace. My name is Sean. I'd like to thank everybody for tuning in to the Kofi Pie Research Team Master Warrior Clan show. We call this Tough Talk Tuesdays. I'm going to get to it in just a second. I just need your help sharing the show. So like the show, share the show. We are live on Facebook and we are live on the Master Warrior Clan YouTube channel. So there's probably going to be much of a discussion on the Mossy versus the Facebook. What up here? What's good? What's going on, man? I do want to thank everybody for tuning in. Those who will watch the show at a later time, appreciate you tuning in at a later time. Hopefully everybody, continue to have brother Kofi Pie on your hearts and minds as he's dealing with some things that he probably may talk about on his own terms. And so, just keep Kofi on your mind and his family on your mind. When you have some thought or some time to yourself, again, like the show, share the show, tell a friend, tell a friend. And before I get started, I want to go ahead and let you know again that this is what we are building on today. Ladies and gentlemen, you should be able to see my screen. This is what we will be building on today. I'm about to get that link in there, so just hang tight for me. And I gotta make sure I get my brothers the link. And we're gonna have this a little brief discussion, man. This will be something that oughta not, I don't know if a lot of people are even, aware of this. But we're gonna talk about 1838. We're gonna get into this Jesuit slave trade. I'm not gonna keep you all day. This is sponsored by the Kofi Paisai Research Team and Invoker Clothing Line, along with the Master Warrior Clan and Killmonger's Corner. Make sure you go on Amazon and cop any one of these books. But you can get a discount by going to Kofi Paisai TV.com, and you get you get a huge discount off of Spiritual Combat, the new volume that has been released by the Kofi Paisai Research Team. It is cheaper than the Amazon price. The Amazon price is a lot more. And buying it directly through the Kofi Paisai Research Team, we're gonna give you a deal. So there you have it right there on the screen. And again, it's a Dolph thing, crazy and creative. Our brothers and sisters on the continent, we formed a partnership to actually, build a clothing line, right? That's why you see the Umboka like that. You'll see the Kofi Paisai Research Team merch. You'll see the Masa Warrior Clan merch. You'll see, of course, Umboka clothing line merch. Make sure you go and get that merch and ask for more evidence. Like I said, I can send you to Facebook in your inbox because Facebook doesn't like the website, or it'll be in the description on Facebook, but I think it is in the description on YouTube. So make sure if you're not subscribed to the Kofi Paisai Research Team YouTube channel, go ahead and subscribe to that, and also the Master Warrior Clan YouTube channel. More from the clothing line, t-shirts, hoodies, sweatshirts, purses, jackets, bucket hats, hats, jogging sweatpants, unisex sweatpants, with the Mboka logo, with the Masi logo, with the Kofi Paisai Research Team logo. You know what I mean? It's everything. It's a Dolph thing. You know what I'm saying? Um, Also, shout out to the Kofi Paisai Research Team and the Masa Warrior Clan Brother Black Panther. Scholarship program is going very well over there in the Gambia. 2 qualified students are really, really, really doing their thing to bring it home for us. So continue to support, continue. Again, this build is brought to you by what you see on the screen: the Masa Warrior Clan, the Kofi Paisai Research Team, and Mboka clothing. It's a Dolph thing. All right. Now I know. Let me stop sharing. Now I know that Facebook is a little bit behind, so I'm gonna try to keep up with the comments on Facebook and um, YouTube with Peace Brother Keenan, Brother Thurman, and 365 Insight. Appreciate y'all, man. Again, like the show, share the show. I see some people coming in, coming out, coming back in. What up, Shana? Salute to everybody on, like I said, Facebook watching. I'm gonna make this quick, man, 'cause I know y'all got something to do, so I don't mean to disrupt y'all evening. Let me get into this. I'm gonna reshare my screen. I'm gonna go to Encyclopedia Britannica. I want to give you basically a definition of who the Jesuits are. So here you go, right here. Jesuits, a member of the Society of Jesus. SJ, that's what they call themselves. It's a Roman Catholic order of religious men founded by Saint Ignatius of Loyola, noted for its educational, missionary, and charitable works. The order has been regarded by many as the principal agent of the Counter-Reformation. It was later a leading force in modernizing the church. All right. So there you go right there, who they are. Now, let's just get a little quick understanding of a little bit more of who they are. So we'll just go to Wiki real quick. Yeah, you can see right here, they got the actual primaries right here. And this is good because these are the actual primaries that you're looking at over here, the 1838 slave sale. And we'll get into detail of those primaries and what it say on there. So it says in 1838, 272 men, women, and children were sold by the Maryland Jesuits. A portion of the proceeds was used to pay for the debts of Georgetown College, which is now Georgetown University, also run by the Jesuits. This is why you hear Georgetown, I think, trying to make a strong swing at reparations for, I think, like college tuition or something like that as a reparations plan or something that they're trying to do. I don't know the specifics of it, but I heard that, they're one of the universities that wanted to, kind of be a part of that, so they say. So the slaves had lived on plantations belonging to the Jesuits in Maryland, and they were sold to Henry Johnson and Jesse Beatty. The sales price was $115,000, equivalent to $2 million today, well, last year. Of the $25,000 down payment, $17,000 was used to pay down building debt that Thomas Mudley, the provincial supervisor who orchestrated the sale, had accrued as a president of Georgetown College. The slaves sold by the Jesuits were part of the West Oak Chatham Plantation in Louisiana, both of which would later change ownership. Hold on 1 second. We'll come back to that. You get Brother Satep in. Ownership. Now, none of the terms of the sale directed the Catholic Church leadership in Rome were met. I'm going to read that again. None of the terms for the sale directed from the Catholic Church leadership in Rome were met. These terms included that there be no familial separation, that the proceeds not be used to pay debt or operating expenses of the college, and the religious practice of the enslaved be supported. In 1848, the Jesuit James Van de Velde wrote to Mulledy about his concerns over the lack of religious instruction received by the slaves sold to Henry Johnson, and urged Mulledy to contribute the funds for the construction of the chapel. Many descendants of these slave people, sometimes known as the GU 272, presently live in or around Marygoin, Louisiana. In April 2019, 2/3 of Georgetown students voted to establish a semesterly fee to fund reparations for descendants of the 272 enslaved people. The non-binding resolution was presented to the university for the approval of its board of directors. It's the legacy. National revelations of this connection were reported in 2016 article in New York Times. A discussion is ongoing addressing the questions of reconciliation of the university and the descendants, and the Turner Working Group at Georgetown recommended that the university offer the same consideration they give members of the Georgetown community in the admission process to the descendants. In response to these issues, descendant groups have formed, including the GU 272 Descendants Association. All right, so I'm gonna skip a little bit of this because you actually can get into that on the website. I turn my focus to a couple of primary documents that are enlisted with this particular situation of the sale of these slaves by the Jesuits. All right, you see this brother right here. This is a photograph of Frank Campbell, as you can see at the bottom, one of the enslaved people sold by Maryland Jesuits in 1838. Now, these photographs are included in the scrapbook from the early 1900s that belonged to Robert Ruffin Barrow Jr., which is held at Elander Memorial Library on Nicholls State University. Now, Frank Campbell was the son of Wyatt and Teresa Campbell. He is listed as a 1-year-old in an 1828 tax assessment of the St. Inigos, 12 years old in the 1838 tax assessment of the St. Inigos, and 20 years old in the 1838 article of the agreement. He married Mary Jane Mahoney, who was also sold in 1838. The younger daughter in the photographs has been identified as Frank Campbell's granddaughter, Mary Jane. The story of this discovery of Frank Campbell's photograph was published in the New York Times in 2017. Here's a map of where this all took place. But I wanted to get into this. Is right here. We'll get into this in a minute. So I want to try to be a little bit more specific. If you're familiar with any type of slave documents, hold up. If you're familiar with any type of slave documents, the bill of sales are always written in a format like this. It had a slave person's name. You can't see it too well. I mean, I'm gonna get more detailed, but it had a slave person name on the left hand side, and then it'll have like sex and possible birth date or something like that, or it'll have some other statistic going right there to let you know what you're getting, pretty much. And we'll get to the net. And that's Money Hall right there in 1898. So let's skip on to the New York Times article. Here you go, right here. Oh, you thought I was just gonna go to Wiki? Nah, and how we do it. So here you go again. 272 slaves were sold to save Georgetown. What does it owe their descendants? So a lot of y'all may have heard this over the news and just forgot about it. But we don't forget about stuff like that around here. We want to make sure that them 272 get their justification, but also all the universities that owe money, they need to pay reparations as well. It's a lot that owe. So we all should have free education. We all should have free a whole lot of stuff. When you're having a reparation conversation with these senators and governors and mayors and state representatives, we need to make sure stuff on the table, because a lot of these universities' hands was in the slave trade. Funding, banks, funding, all of that. And we're the descendants of those people. So yeah, we are owe something, but until then, we need to work on ourselves and get our own selves together and learn how to build within one another and not wait on that, because that's just that's a hope and a prayer pretty much. Now, the human cargo was loaded on ships at a bustling wharf in the capital destined for the South. Some slaves pleaded for rosaries as they were rounded up praying for deliverance. But on this day in the fall of 1838, no one was spared. Not the 2-month-old baby and her mother, not the field hands, not the shoemaker at not Cornelius Hawkins, who was about 13 years old when he was forced on board. Their panic and desperation would be mostly forgotten for more than a century. But this was no ordinary slave sale. The enslaved African Americans had belonged to the nation's most prominent Jesuit priest, and they were sold along with scores of others to help secure the future of the premier Catholic institution of higher learning at a time known today as Georgetown University. Now, with racial protests, rolling college campuses, an unusual collection of Georgetown professors, students, and alumni and genealogists is trying to find out what happened to those 272 men, women, and children. And they are confronting a particular wretched question. What, if anything, is owed to the descendants of the slaves who were sold to help ensure the college's survival? More than a dozen universities, including Brown, Columbia, Harvard, and the University of Virginia, have publicly recognized their ties to slavery and the slave trade. But the 1838 slave sale organized by Jesuits who founded and ran Georgetown stands out for its sheer size, historians say. At Georgetown, slavery and scholarship were inextricably linked. The college relied on the Jesuit plantations in Maryland to help finance its operations, university officials says. Slaves were often donated by prosperous parishioners, and the 1838 sale, worth about $3.3 million in today's dollars, was organized by two of Georgetown early presidents, both Jesuit priests. They helped to pay off the debts of the struggling college. Hold up. The university itself owes its existence to its history, said Adam Rothman, a historian at Georgetown and a member of the university working group that is studying ways for the institution to acknowledge and try to make amends for its tangled roots in slavery. Although the working group was established in August, it was student demonstrations at Georgetown in the fall that helped to galvanize alumni and gave new urgency to the administration's efforts. The students organized a protest and a sit-in using the hashtag GU272 for the slaves who were sold. In November, the university agreed to remove the names of the Reverend Thomas Mudley and Reverend William McSherry, the college president involved in the sale of the two from campus buildings. An alumnus following the protest from afar wondered if more needed to be done. That alumnus, Richard Cellini, The chief executive of a technology company and practicing Catholic was troubled that neither the Jesuits nor university officials had tried to trace the lives of the enslaved African Americans or compensate their progeny. Mr. Cellini is unlikely a racial crusader. A white man, he admitted that he had never spent much time thinking about slavery or African American history. But he said he could not stop thinking about the slaves whose name had been in Georgetown archives for decades. There you go, right there. This is not the disembodied group of people who are nameless and faceless, said Mr. Cellini, 52, whose company, Briefcase Analytics, is based in Cambridge, Massachusetts. These are real people with real names and real descendants. Within 2 weeks, Mr. Cellini had set up a nonprofit, the Georgetown Memory Project, hired 8 genealogists and raised more than $10,000 from fellow alumni to finance their research. Dr. Rothman, the Georgetown historian, heard about Cellini's efforts and let him know that he and several of his students were also tracing the slaves. Soon, the 2 men and their teams were working on parallel trucks. What has emerged from their research and that of other scholars is a glimpse of the insular world dominated by priests who required their slaves to attend mass for the sake of their salvation, but also whipped and sold some of them. The records describe runaways, harsh plantation conditions, and the anguish voiced by some Jesuits over their participation in the system of forced servitude. A microcosm of the whole history of American slavery, Dr. Rothman said. The enslaved were grandmothers and grandfathers, carpenters and blacksmiths, pregnant women and anxious fathers, children and infants who were fearful, bewildered, and despairing as they saw their families and communities ripped apart by the sale of 1838. The researchers have used archival records to follow their footsteps from the Jesuit plantation in Maryland to the docks of New Orleans to 3 plantations west and south of Baton Rouge. The hope was eventually identify the slave descendants. By the end of December, one of Mr. Cellini's genealogists felt confident that he had found a strong test case, the family of the boy Cornelius Hawkins. Broken promise. There are no surviving images of Cornelius, no letters or journals that offer a look into his last hours on the Jesuit plantation in Maryland. He was not yet 5 feet tall when he sailed on board the Catherine Jackson, one of several vessels that carried the slaves to the port of New Orleans. This document is important right here. This is the ship manifest of the Catherine Jackson, available in full at Georgetown Slavery Archive. This ain't the only one that they have in their archive up there at Georgetown or any other major university. There's tons of other manifests from slave ships who will trace our, that will help us trace our lineages back to the continent of Africa, because they will tell us what boats we came from and all of this. In this instance, they was already in the Americas at this time frame. They aborted the ship, the manifest read out, and then they were sent down south. An inspector scrutinized the cargo on December 6, 1838. Examined and found correct, he wrote of Cornelius and 129 other people he found on the ship. The notation betrayed no hint of the turmoil on board, but priests at the Jesuit plantation recounted the panic and fear they witnessed when the slaves departed. Some children were sold without their parents. Records show when the slaves were dragged off by force to the ship. Reverend Thomas Lilly reported others, including 2 of the Cornelius' uncles, ran away before they could get captured. But few were lucky enough to escape. Reverend Peter Havermans wrote on an elderly woman who fell to her knees begging to know what she had done to deserve such a fate. According to Robert M. McCurran, a retired Georgetown historian who described the eyewitness accounts of the sale in his research, Cornelius' extended family was split, with his Aunt Nellie and his daughter shipped to one plantation and his Uncle James and his wife and children sent to another, records show. At a time, the Catholic Church did not view slaveholding as immoral, said Reverend Thomas Murphy, a historian at Seattle University who has written a book about the Jesuits and slavery. There you go. The Jesuits had sold off individual slaves before, as early as the 1780s. Dr. Rothman found the openly discussed the need to cull the stock of human beings. But the decision to sell virtually all of the slave African Americans in the 1830s left some priests deeply troubled. They worried that new owners might not allow the slaves to practice their Catholic faith. They also knew that the life on the plantations in the Deep South was notoriously brutal and feared that families might end up being separated and resold. It would be better to suffer financial disaster than suffer the loss of our souls with the sale of slaves. I'm going to say that again. It would be better to suffer financial disaster than suffer the loss of our souls with the sale of slaves. So the Reverend Ruthman says, who headed the Jesuits International Organization from Rome and was initially reluctant to authorize the sale. But he was persuaded to reconsider by several prominent Jesuits, including Father Mullet, then the influential president of Georgetown, who had overseen its expansion, and the Father McSherry, who was in charge of the Jesuit Maryland mission. The two men would swap positions in 1838. Mismanaged and inefficient, the Maryland plantation no longer offered a reliable source of income for Georgetown College, which had been founded in 1789. It would not survive, Father Mullet feared, without an influx of cash. So in June 1838, he negotiated a deal with Henry Johnson, a member of the House of Representatives, and Jesse Beatty, a landowner in Louisiana, to sell Cornelius and the others. Here's a piece of that document that you've seen from Wiki right here. And this is the bill of sale, like I told you, and was dated June 19, 1838, as it states. Thomas Mullet sells to Jesse Beatty and Henry Johnson 272 Negroes to wit. It outlined a payment plan with the discounts if the slaves turned out to be more infirm than described. Father Mullet promised the superiors that the slaves would continue to practice their religion. Families would not be separated, and the money raised by the sale would not be used to pay off the debt or operating expenses. None of those conditions was met, university officials said. Father Mullet took most of the down payment he received from the sale, about $500,000 in today's dollars, and used it to help pay off debts that Georgetown had incurred under his leadership. In the uproar that followed, he was called to Rome to reassign. The next year, Pope Gregory the 16th explicitly barred Catholics from engaging in this traffic in blacks, no matter what the pretext or excuse. Now he wanted to do something. But the Pope's order, which did not explicitly address the slave ownership or private sales like the one organized by the Jesuits, offered scant comfort to Cornelius and other slaves. By 1840s, word was trickling back to Washington that the slaves' new owners had broken their promises. Some slaves suffered at the hands of a cruel overseer. Roughly 2/3 of the Jesuits' former slaves, including Cornelius and his family, had been shipped to two plantations so distant from churches that they never see a Catholic priest. The Reverend James Van de Velde, a Jesuit who visited Louisiana, wrote in a letter in 1848. Father Van Velde, he begged Jesuit leaders to send money for the construction of the church that would provide for the salvation of those poor people who are now utterly neglected. This is what it's saying in the letter. It says they are all very good people, industrious, faithful, and moral. The character given to them by their owners and their neighbors, but they have scarcely any chance to attend their religious duties, and the children, several of them not yet baptized, grew up without any religious instruction whatsoever. Ask yourself, why are these people so hell-bent on these Africans and these African Americans practicing their version of this so-called religion? Is beyond me. Now, he addresses concerns to Father Mullet, who 3 years earlier had returned to his post as a president of Georgetown. There's no indication that he received any response. I have a whole problem with this religious part of it, straight up. A familiar name. African Americans are often fleeting presence in the documents of the 1800s. Enslaved, marginalized, and forced into illiteracy by laws that prohibited them from learning to read or write. Many seem like ghosts who pass through this world without leaving a trace. After the sale, Cornelius vanishes from the public record until 1851, when his trial finally picks back up on a cotton plantation near Marengoin, Louisiana. His owner, Mr. Beatty, had died, and Cornelius appeared on the plantation inventory, which included 27 mules and horses, 32 hogs, 2 ox carts, and scores of other slaves. I'm going to say this again. His name does not reappear until 1851, when he comes up on a public record for inventory. In 1851, this kid, now man, is inventory. Now, the value of plantation and Negroes for sale, read one newspaper advertisement in 1852. The plantation would be sold again and again and again, records show. The Cornelius family remained intact. In 1870, he appeared at the census for the first time. He was about 48 then, a father, a husband, a farm laborer, and finally a free man, 1870. He might have disappeared from view again for a time, save for something few could have counted on, his deep abiding faith. It was his Catholicism, born in the Jesuit plantation of his childhood, that would provide researchers with a roadmap to his descendants. Cornelius had originally been shipped to a plantation so far from a church that he had married in a silver ceremony. But 6 years after he appeared in the census and about 3 decades after the birth of his first child, he renewed his wedding vows with the blessings of a priest. His children and grandchildren also embraced Catholic Church, so Judah Riffle. One of the genealogists hired at Cellini began following the chain of wedding and birth, baptism, and burials. The church records helped lead to a 69-year-old woman in Baton Rouge named Maxine Crump. There go Maxine right there. Miss Crump, a retired television news anchor, was driving to Maryville in her hometown in early February when her cell phone rang. Miss Cellini was on the line. She listened stunned, and as he told her about her great-great-grandfather, Cornelius Hawkins, who had labored on the plantation just a few miles from where she grew up. She found out about the Jesuits in Georgetown and the sea voyage to Louisiana. And she learned that Cornelius had worked the soil of 2,800-acre estate that straddled the Bayou Marigoine. All of this was new to Miss Crump, except the name Cornelius, or Neely, as Cornelius was known. The name had been passed down from generation to generation in her family. Her great uncle had the name, as did one of her cousins. Now, for the first time, Miss Crump understood its origins. "Oh my God," she said. "Oh my God." Miss Crump is a familiar figure in Baton Rouge. She was the city's first Black woman television anchor. She runs a nonprofit dialogue of race in Louisiana that offers educational programs on institutional racism and ways to combat it. She prides herself on being unflappable, but the revelations about her lineage and the church she grew up in have unleashed a swirl of emotions. She is outraged that the church leadership sanctions the buying and the selling of slaves and the Georgetown profit for the sale of her ancestors. She feels great sadness as she envisions Cornelius as a young boy, torn from everything she knew. Now they are real to me. Miss Selena, whose genealogists have already traced more than 200 of the slaves from Maryland to Louisiana, believes there may be thousands of living descendants. He has contacted a few, including Patricia Bayonne Johnson, president of Eastern Washington Genealogy Society in Spokane, who is helping to trace the Jesuit slaves with her group. Ms. Bayonne Johnson discovered her connection through an earlier effort by the university to publish records online about the Jesuit plantation. There you go, Ms. Johnson right there. Meanwhile, Georgetown Working Group has been weighing whether the university should apologize for profiting from the slave labor, create a memorial to those enslaved, and provide scholarships for their descendants among the possibilities, said Rothman, the historian. "It's hard to know what could possibly reconcile a history like this," he said. "What can you do to make amends?" Ms. Crump, 69, has been asking herself that question too. She does not put much stock in what she describes as casual institutional apologies, but she would like to see a scholarship program that would bring the slave descendants to Georgetown as students, as she would like to see Cornelius' name and those of his parents and children inscribed on the memorial campus. Her ancestors, once amorphous and invisible, are finally taking shape in her mind. "There is a joy in that," she said, "exhilaration even. Now they are real to me," she said, "more real every day." She still wants to know more about the Cornelius beginning and about his life as a free man. But when Miss Riffles, the genealogist, told her where she thought he was buried, Miss Crump knew exactly where to go. The two women drove on the narrow roads that aligned green, rippling sugarcane fields in Iberville Parish. There was no need for a map. They were headed to the only Catholic cemetery in Marigny. They found the last physical mark on Cornelius' journey at the Immaculate Heart of Mary Cemetery, where Miss Crump's father, grandfather, and great-great-grandfather are also buried. They want a gravestone and toppled, but the words was plain. Neely Hawkins died April 16, 1902. Sad. A little bit more on the sale of Maryland Jesuit enslaved community to Louisiana in 1838. Earlier, I told you that we would get into the document. So what I'm scrolling on right now are pieces of that document in increments. This first piece right here is the article of agreement. I'm gonna go back and we'll get into the other one. But this article of agreement, as you can see, in its own words, it goes just like this. I don't wanna bore nobody with this, but I'm gonna just give you a little piece of it. Okay? It basically says in the first part of it, Thomas F. Mullet sells to Jesse Bader and Henry Johnson 272 Negroes to wit. Then it goes and it gives it says Isaac, a man 65 years of age. So it starts naming people. It names Isaac, names Charles, tells how old Charles was, it names Nellie, names Henny, Celia, Ruthie. It give everybody names. And then it continue to go on and on and on. So you got 272 names that's in this particular letter. And then it tells the story and goes in it, if they shall be considered worth agreeable to the average price of the whole, that sum, but if they should be worth that amount agreeable to the said average, their estimated value is to be paid on their delivery. But the balance required to make up the amount of $25,000 shall be paid on the delivery of the other slaves in the fall. So I don't want to give, that goes through the specifics of the sale. And then it says a list of 51 Negroes referred to in the foregoing contract. So there you go right there with the first part of that. The second part is the manifesto of Catherine Jackson, which we mentioned earlier. But just to give you a little bit more insight, so list of slaves transported from Alexandria to New Orleans on the Catherine Jackson in November and December 1838. Many of the men, women, and children listed on this manifest were sold by Thomas Mullet to Jesse Beatty and Henry Johnson. They were shipped by Robert A. Windsor of Alexandria and co-signed to Lambert and Thompson of New Orleans. Names, height, sex, name, sex, age, height, whether Negro, mulatto, or person of color. And that's how it go. That were their names. This document go all the way down. You want to get into it, you might find your family, you got somebody from Louisiana. All right, here you go again. Let's skip this one. Again, it's the bill of sale right here. And it's the other 56 people. And then another bill of sale with 64 people. Another bill of sale of 84 people. Henry Johnson renegotiates the terms of the sale in 1844. And then a list of enslaved persons remaining on the estate in exchange for no date, 1839. And then the census of people to be sold in 1838. So there you go with the actual primary documents that actually lead up to the letter and actual wiki article. And then this is just something else to throw on. This is from the National Catholic Reporter. And then it goes in about the history of the slaves sold in Georgetown, detailed a new genealogical website. And just some pictures and stuff like that from the GU 272 descendants. And I'm not just going to go through this or anything like that because you got the gist of everything in the primary, which I just showed you, and then the families. And it's just basically a day of remembrance for the families and so on and so forth. So let me start sharing my screen. And let me see here. I'm looking in the chat right now. Peace, Dr. Mahat. Peace, Rob. Peace, Zane. Ogumbala. Yeah. Yeah, I see you, bro. He said, man, where the Hebrews at? Chanel, peace, bro. What's going on, everybody? Jesuits. Yep. Yep. Mm-hmm. A lot of, like I said, a lot of people, y'all can't see the comments. Y'all can't, yeah, you can't see comments there. The pseudo brews are on the run just like the others. Absolutely. Absolutely. Vision. You know what I mean? The whole story. When you just really break it down. What up, Chase? I got Sutek and September right here, but I already think I know what they doing.
I'm on here. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I hear you.
Yeah, but like when I hear you, it's like real choppy, so I can't really. I don't know what you're saying.
Oh, you couldn't hear me?
Yeah, it's real choppy when you talk.
Was I choppy, y'all?
Might just be my phone though. What'd you say, Sutek?
It might be your phone because I heard clear. I think he got choppy a little bit at the end after he unshared the screen, but yeah, for the most part, everything was clear over here.
Yeah, see, I can hear you good, man. I just can't hear Sean.
Oh, I don't know.
Oh, okay. But yeah, man, I mean, what y'all think about that whole with the sale of the slave?
Yeah, man, that's crazy. I ain't even I don't think I ever heard of Jesuits because Jesuits they like the damn they're like missionaries, right?
Correct. Yep. And they were so-called you know, like I want to say they just pump fakers on that, but kind of like want to be seen as not only just missionaries, but a group of people who actually, you know, kind of got into, you know, trying to abolish the slave trade. So I don't know about all that though. I just think they're a bunch of pump fakers. But people, you know, what people don't really realize about them is that like this ain't new. A connection directly to Rome is nothing new. You got to go back to the slave trade and you think about the Papyrus Bull, the Age of Discovery. They don't discover the rest of, you know, they don't make breakthroughs in technology and try to advance and find other places in the rest of the world if it wasn't for the Age of Discovery, which was signed by the Pope who signed off on it. You know what I mean? So you got to deal with Prince Henry the Navigator and all of that, and then you got to deal with the chroniclers of those times, the Portuguese, and you have to deal with how the Portuguese portrayed things, and they went on their little discovery age, and these Europeans, you know, at a time in the maritime time in the 15th century, they led the way in technology as far as being able to advance themselves to go a little bit further out into the Atlantic because they couldn't get back up. They couldn't sail back up the west coast of, or the northwest coast of Africa when they tried to come out of the Mediterranean and go down, you know, closer to the Morocco area. And then what a lot of people think, or you know what I'm saying, when we get into identifying Berbers, this is another identity that we have because you don't get these Berbers, you know, whether Muslim or Jew. I'm gonna say that again. These Berbers, whether Muslim or Jew, really don't come from down the Moroccan area down there into West Africa until a little bit later on in the periods, around like 10th AD or somewhere around 1100. Uh, yeah, around the 1100s. And close to where, you know, really where the Tuareg established Timbuktu, which were Berbers. You know what I mean? So there's some distinctions that's going on with all of that and that we deal with in that historical moment. They, break off the slave trade, and then when they kick off, and when I'm saying the slave trade, I'm talking about the transatlantic. I'm not talking about the Arab slave trade, y'all. But because it just keep on happening. But the transatlantic break off, and then they get to the New World, and then we find ourselves in a funk, scattered from South America to North America, and then our ancestors just become, some of them, become lost at sea. Others barely survive, and descendants live on. But the harsh reality is that, when we look at our situation in America, it was all orchestrated out of a place that none of us will ever probably visit, see, or think about seeing in our time, and that's the Roman Catholic Church and them popes. So, um, we wouldn't even be Christians or Catholics if you just want to be truthful. We wouldn't have any religious identity associated with our enslavers had it not been for slavery. I don't mean to hurt nobody's feelings because I might lose some viewers behind that, because a lot of people that are stouched Christians, you know what I mean? And they blackenize Christianity and or Africanized Christianity and Africanized what is that?
African system.
Yeah. And Christianized Africans, you're correct. Rob said he'll Touré.
Yeah.
I'm looking in the chat. 365 said facts. Okay. But yeah, that's pretty much, he said they never helped us in our natural state. We had to be Christianized before the good missionaries helped us. It's correct, everything. It's correct. This is what people don't really want to deal with. He said, F. Sean, so pure crazy. They try to Africanize Christianity, Islam, Judaism, Hebrewism. Delusion is what it is. It's from esoteric. Well, yeah. Yeah. I would say that a lot of, like I said again, a lot of people can't see the YouTube comments, but I'm gonna try to put some up as I can. But yeah, like I was saying, man, the truth is, a lot of people that actually might be catching this stream don't want to hear the fact of anything negative about Christianity, because we have been indoctrinated by our grandmothers, great-grandmothers, great-great-grandmothers, and fathers along those lines. You know what I mean? If we go back 100 years or we go back 200 years, if we go back 150 years, we would see a lot of our ancestors coming over on boats. You know what I mean? And people coming over on boats, or the boat, whether it's from South America past the Caribbeans to the North America, or whether it's directly from West Africa, our ancestors, or whether it was through slave breeding. We were taught, our enslavers, religious practices, traditions, and culture. And then we were subjected to what they call the slave Bible, which was the remembrance of certain documents that only spoke to us, on our knees, begging our slave masters and hoping Jesus would crack the sky, or God would crack the sky. And that's just the harsh reality. That's the reason why y'all are, Christian. And then the reason why some of our brothers and sisters are Muslims is because it seemed anti-Christian, and it looked like it was a pushback. And then all of a sudden they flipped the script on you. And what most people really don't know or get into, and we said this before on this channel and others, is that the same Christian and Jew, the same Christian and Jew helped write the Quran, which is the foundation for y'all. It's not really one of the major pieces of the document for our brothers and sisters that practice Islam, the Quran. But yeah, I knew I would lose a couple views behind any comment. But anybody got any questions regarding the 272 slaves that were sold by the Jesuits? Jesuits. Yeah. Them your people though. You know what I mean? If you're a Christian or if you're a Catholic, especially if you're a Catholic, your own people in your own faith sold you. You know what I mean? In 1838, a lot of our ancestors became converted Christians and Muslims behind trying to get freedom, trying to be free. They thought becoming that would gain them freedom, and that wasn't the case. As a matter of fact, the Europeans began to say, you know what? They're going to start converting faster, thinking that they will become free. So what did our ancestors do? They started to convert to Christianity because they wanted freedom. They felt like it would stop them from being enslaved, but they stopped that whole little thing. That's why, you see the British saying certain things about that. The Portuguese didn't care what you did. They was coming, and they was coming with the sword. They weren't playing no games with us. That's true. But I just think that we really, I don't care what you practice, man. Your practice is supposed to be private to you. Keep it private. It's when you try to sell me on it or you try to be a missionary and convert me, and I ain't going for that. I'm gonna be very rebellious, and I'm going to lash out scholastically at you for trying to sell me that on your afterlife, because that's really all you got to offer somebody. A lot of people who really just go through the crap and ain't got nothing better going on for themselves. They're stuck in a situation they can't get out of, barely can afford to live in the situations that they live in, struggling. You know what I mean? Kids in the streets might be dead or gone. Situations happen and they can't do anything about it because the system got a hold of them and they doing their best. So all they got is a particular faith or a belief, and you know what I'm saying, and thinking that being, the call home is going to be satisfied for them when it's their time to transition. So they're looking for that afterlife. Because I mean, really, you know what I'm saying? That's why they there on every Sunday. They sing and they get the Holy Ghost. They certain songs speak directly to them because of their situations. You know what I mean? And then when something positive happen, they want to give the glory outside of themselves, and you know, it's tough. It's tough, and they'll turn around and do it. Like I said, even if you practice Islam or claim to be a Muslim, it's the same thing. They started enslaving you too. There wasn't no defense mechanism from slavery because you started converting to their religious practices and abandoning your own cultural practices and traditions. You know what I mean? And our ancestors, they faked the funk early in slavery. Some of them converted to Christianity and then began to hide certain things inside Christianity. That's how you get Catholicism. That's how you get, you know what I mean, Regla de Ocha and all this other stuff coming over here into the New World, because they tried to have they try to have those African traditions. But yeah, not to get off the point, our struggles are religious based. We were enslaved behind the religious rhetoric of the Pope and his people. He had to sign off. If the Pope don't sign off, there's no age of discovery. I mean, during the age of discovery, if he don't sign off on that document, we battling with the Arabs. We in a fight against converting Islam. And that was going on because we wasn't converting like that. Some kings did convert, But other people still held on to their traditions. People weren't just bouncing to Islam or becoming a Muslim. Like people try to make it out to be and all of that. But yeah, man, we've been on here a little while, rocking out. I'm looking for questions. Let me check. Hold on. I see YouTube on file. While I'm doing this, man, let me get into my screen share one more time. I'd like to thank everybody for like tuning in, man, building with us and all of that. But I'm a member of the Master Warrior Clan and the Kofi Pi research team, and we just released a new book. If you haven't got any of our books, you can get it at KofiPiSiTV.com, the Learning Center. And as you can see, all of our books are listed right here. Spears of the Master Volume 1. If you ain't got Volume 2, get Volume 2. You got my children's book right here, One Night Before Bed. And then you got Kalawai's Trip to the Motherland, written by Kofi Pi. And then we also have From Cocaine to Consciousness. And then we also have As I Learn, We All Learn, from Kofi Pi. And then we have our third volume right here, which is, we are really, really, really pleased with this particular work, Spiritual Combat, right here. Cheaper than the Amazon price. Cheaper than the Amazon price. So make sure that y'all support us. Also, let me get into the clothing line too. Not only do we have a scholarship with our brothers and sisters over there on the motherland, but we also have a clothing line too. Like I said, for some people who ain't seen it, you know what I mean? Give me a second, I'm gonna show it to you. Cause Facebook won't let us share it. I'm sure when I get off this and I go to Facebook, I'm gonna be arguing with some people. I really ain't gonna argue with them, but we'll have some issues. But here it is right here, y'all. Yep, Family Connected Apparel. Right here in Boca. There you go. Yeah, man. Mess with us. So there go our brothers. There go our brothers over there in Gambia. There go our brothers. Yep. So let's see what we got on this website. I'm gonna show y'all a little bit more. There goes some, just some signature stuff right there from the Kofi Pi research team and then Boca brand. And then we can go ahead and get into the catalog. When you get into the catalog, we start to spread out 62 products available. Yep, you got your laptop sleeve. You know what I'm saying? I'm gonna have to give me one of them. College shirts, As I Learn, We All Learn. Hoodies, As I Learn, We All Learn. Bucket hats. Yep, hats, bags, more college shirts. This time the Kofi Pi brand. Backpacks. Fanny pack. Keep them bands in there. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. Protect yourself from COVID-19. We are scientific on this end. There we go. You know what I'm saying? More hats, sweatshirts, jogging pants, backpacks. Yeah, look at the ladies getting it in. Know y'all like that tote bag, ladies. Y'all be having all that stuff on y'all. The tote bag, get your tote bag. Hoodies, raincoats. We loaded. It's cold outside. Get you a family poster. Hang it up. In Boca, whatever. Cell phone it. You know what I mean? It's a Dolph thing. Get it in. We just ain't throwing out things. We create some. Oh, come on now, ladies. Come on now, ladies. Come on now. Y'all know y'all gotta get y'all some of these. Y'all gotta get y'all a pair of these and take a picture in it for your boy. You got to do that. Yep. Shirts. Yeah, go on and get y'all leggings and a little t-shirt to go with it, man. Rock out. Feel me? Get it in. Yup. Mossy. We went from Mboka to Kofi Pie side to Mossy. Yeah, man. More joggers right there, fellas. We got them. You know what I'm saying? And then we got the nice little jacket to rock with it. You feel me? Come on, man. Y'all quit playing with us. The Mossy tote. Quit playing with us. Our ancestors are the greatest. Yeah. That's how we rocking over here, man. Again, you know what I'm saying? Keep Kofi on your hearts and your minds. You know, if you're friends with Kofi, like September said yesterday, let him know, man. Send him a message. Send him a message. You know what I mean? Some words of wisdom. So again, this is the Family Connected pair here. You can contact us. You know, send us something. Join the newsletter. Subscribe. Rock with us. Go to KofiPieSideTV.com. Many people haven't been to the website, so I'm gonna give you a little quick tour. I'm going through my phone and see if they got some questions on a few of these watch parties. So it'll take you here, Uncle Jocelyn Nib. As I learn, we all learn. We got featured videos, articles, learning, marketing, and YouTube. Here we go right here. You click on the video right here. Watch this, test your knowledge of Africa, the coming of age ceremony. It's a featured quiz to come behind it. There's the quiz right there. You click on that, take the quiz. And then there's other quizzes we have on there too, and videos. And then, you know, you can go to the feature articles, which we need to update. And when we update them, we put some new stuff on there. You know what I mean? See, dedications, videos, stuff like that. It's a couple of articles. They got us down here. We need to add some more pictures and stuff. They got us down there. Let me quit hey. And then again, I showed you the learning market. Then we got the suggested readings. It's an educational site, ladies and gentlemen. It's just not no site where you can just say, go buy a book. Video up there on the recommended books. We got a list right here. Add these texts to your library. Reserve. Yep. Some good reading right here. We recommend over here. Oh, sure. I guess it's a, oh, yeah. You know, I can play that. I can play this for y'all. It's just a video for the book. Yeah, man. You know what I'm saying? Same thing with this one right here. We ain't playing. Go on the website, KofiPieSideTV.com. That's what you know. We got the videos on there, ladies and gentlemen. Some learning moments and all of that. So yeah, on that note, let me stop sharing. I don't want a mic hog. We still got people in the building. Yeah, see, Facebook won't let us post the clothing line on their stuff. It rejecting it.
Yeah, I see that. It's crazy.
Pure crazy, man. Pure man. Listen, somebody need to take his phone, dog.
Man, you
Take
gotta be.
his phone, something from him, man. So I'm gonna end this at we're an hour in on this one. I think I'm just gonna come back. I think we can come back, y'all. Let me try to see if I can clear it up for Satep, and we can kick it for about 30 minutes to an hour on a little follow up or something like that. So on that note, man, I just want to appreciate everybody for tuning in. I'm gonna say Shimim Hotep as depart in peace. Keep Brother Kofi on y'all hearts and minds. Send him a message of encouragement. You know what I mean? Need it right now. Really need it right now. And some support. Make sure you go out and you get your copy of Spears of the Massive, whether it's volume 1, 2, or 3. As I learned, we all learn Kalawa's Trip to the Motherland, One Night Before Bed, and Cocaine Before Consciousness. From cocaine to consciousness. My bad. And we appreciate everybody tuning in. I'm gonna come right back, but I'm gonna do this one time for the YouTube. You know what I mean? So I'm gonna end this stream so we can catalog it. I'm gonna come back for the YouTube fam. Peace.